Welcome to Full Rigor, a Florida true crime podcast. I'm your host, Karen Curtis. On this episode, I'm going to tell you about a doozy of a condo con job. Half the state of Florida lives in a community association, a condo or an HOA. That's like 11 million people out of 22 million. And these associations are run by a board of regular people who live in the community, who do not get paid, theoretically, and who have access sometimes to millions of association dollars, debit cards, checkbooks. So sometimes board members get their hand stuck in the cookie jar.
It is alleged that Grigory Arzumanov embezzled over $1.5 million from the condominium association dating back to February of 2017.
Like this ex-condominium association president who was just busted on racketeering, grand theft, credit card fraud, and money laundering charges for allegedly pocketing condo fees and rents, according to the arrest warrant. And you just heard from the Miami-Dade State Attorney, Catherine Fernandez-Rundle. She says 62-year-old Grigory Arzumanov had various money laundering schemes as the Condo Association president of Turnberry on the Green in Aventura.
2018, he made $317,000. In 2020, $266,000. And by 2021, $230,000. In 2022, $203,000.
Just for scope and texture, Aventura is basically right at the border of Broward County to Miami-Dade County. It's east. It's a very affluent area. In fact, there's 375 condo owners living in the 28-story posh condo in Aventura, where the unit prices range from $380,000 to $725,000. Rentals range from $2,500 to $5,000 a month. So Grigory was president of Turnberry on the Green in Aventura and was recently perp-walked out of the condo building in handcuffs. His charges, as you heard, include money laundering and grand theft. The state attorney says that he was on the board since 2008, rigging votes, embezzling funds, collecting a salary of $80,000 a year. You're not supposed to be paid as the condo president or as a condo board member. He had rental payments going to his dead mother.
His mother had been deceased, and there was not a unit that was in her name. And so that is primarily where the money laundering issue comes from.
So Arzumanov allegedly stole $1.5 million over 7 years from the Turnberry on the Green Condo Association, according to the state attorney. And when you're the president of the board, you're pretty much king of the jungle in these condo associations. It was like the Wild West. Now, these board members can't use the debit card and the checkbook as their own piggy bank.
We would object to the allegation or the assertion that he's not a flight risk. He has 3 passports from Georgia, Russia, and the United States. He has flown solo. He takes flight lessons. Part of the allegations are that he would charge airline fuel to the association using the association credit card. There's a difference between being investigated and now facing 100 years of custody, possibly, if he's charged on these cases.
There has to be checks and balances, and now there are, and that's why this is coming to light. So during his tenure, Arzumanov was the association's president as well as the property manager and chief engineer. His bond was set at $500,000 but was just reduced to $350,000, and he must surrender his 3 passports.
Don't put it on the jail card. Does the state already have the passport?
I don't think they took them in because he wasn't arrested at the time of the search.
I'll take possession of them, and if whatever you want me to do.
Surrender of all passports within, 48 hours of release, or do you want it before he is released?
I don't know if it's possible to have it before he's released. I know there's Nebia involved, so I think
there's a Nebia, so it can be surrendered to counsel prior to release.
Okay, and I'll give the state the receipt that I have.
So put it on the jail card, please.
A Nebia hold is a condition that may be placed on a person's bond. It requires those posting the bond to divulge the source of the collateral or funds being put up. So, in other words, Grigory couldn't use any of the money, the ill-gotten gains alleged that he got from his grift of the condo association toward paying his bond. The courts commonly add this condition to the bonds of those accused of drug trafficking and other drug crimes. The hold is sometimes called a Nebia hold, Nebia requirement, or bail source hearing. The Nebia hold allows the court to inquire into the source of funds used for the bond. In this case, his wife has money.
It's alleged here there's over $1.5 million in cash And in real property, he's embezzled from the association since February 2017.
That's correct.
Pretty severe allegations.
Severe allegations, but even assuming that that was accurate, he's certainly not going to be able to use that any money that's tied to the crime for part of the bond because of the nebula. There is independent source of money. His wife has independent income as an employee of a company that has nothing to do with the condominium, but a $500,000 bond would be a $50,000 premium in excessive and out of her reach.
If your honor is inclined to change the bond amounts, we do have additional argument.
I'm listening. They're asking the court has to consider its ability to pay as well. What is the state's objection of reducing it? All you're going to do is enrich a bondsman. Isn't it better restitution? The money and any money he has goes for restitution.
So I wanted to update you on this case regarding the ex-Condo president, 62-year-old Grigory Azamanov. Apparently yesterday they had a bond hearing and the judge, and he agreed with the prosecutors that the $350,000 bond will stay because they can't prove that any money that he has didn't come from, the proceeds of his alleged theft. I want to bring in my friend, my co-host for 15 years of Condo Craze and HOAs, which you can find on YouTube. He's board certified in community association law. He also has classes that he teaches to condo board members. That is now the law that he helped to get passed. Eric Glazer, how are you?
Hey, good morning, Karen. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining me on this story because I know that you have some sort of an association with this guy long ago.
I used to represent this association way back.
And you had run-ins with this guy, Grigory?
No, well, let's just say I represented the association while he was a member of the board as well.
What's happening now? Do you think it took too long to figure out what was going on here? And
it seems as if it took perhaps a decade. You hear people that live in the condos saying they were petrified. It's going on too long.
And in this case, he was using a debit card allegedly to fuel planes that in which he was learning to fly.
Yeah, and that's exactly why. Yeah, the debit cards are now no longer allowed to be used in a condo or an HOA for that matter.
Why were they allowing them to use a debit card? I mean, you had a case where a woman was using it at the Hard Rock Casino, right?
Yes, exactly. That's the exact reason why you can't do that anymore. But, if nobody's watching what you do, if you're the king, I guess you can do what you want to do.
But, isn't someone looking at the books? This guy was paying himself a salary, allegedly.
Right. It seems as if, at least in this specific case, that everybody was simply staying out of his way. And yes, you would think there should have been other members of the board watching what was going on, but apparently they weren't. They simply were not. This sometimes happens. You have an overly aggressive type personality on a board, and the others just kind of back off. I don't know if that was the case here, but it certainly seems as if that was the case. That's the gist you're getting from reading the stories in the press.
But you and I know that the board has the power to strip him of being president. And
Exactly.
So they shouldn't be intimidated, right? Can you explain the dynamics of the board?
Of course not. Absolutely. You can't be removed as a director unless the unit owners get you off as a director. But certainly the board, always, as you just brought out, always has the power to remove you from the presidency. And that simply didn't happen here. Why? We don't know. It just it seems as if the other board members here had a hands-off approach when it came to him for whatever reason, or they just didn't care. Sometimes that happens. As long as the bills are getting paid, they think, okay, everything's fine. Well, that obviously wasn't the case here. Maybe the bills were getting paid, but there should have been a lot more money in the bank.
Do you think that the Hammocks case and Catherine Fernandez-Rundle, the state attorney, that the Hammocks case really got the ball rolling on these types of... Because before, the police didn't want to deal with arresting these people.
Yeah, there's no question the Hammocks case did a lot, including it led to the passage of a lot of new legislation for the entire state of Florida. But make no doubt about it, condo law and HOA law is now in a real priority for all of the state attorney's offices throughout our state. It's a big deal. I mean, the days of stealing, and look, it's always going to happen. There's always going to be some stealing going on. There's no doubt about it. But this is now looked upon by the state attorney's offices a lot more closely now. Big changes in the law this past legislative session make no doubt that bad board members are now in the eyes of the Florida legislature and all the state attorney's offices. It's like you could run, but you can't hide now.
Yeah, the days of using your condo association as your own personal piggy bank pretty much over, would you say?
Yeah, look, people are always going to try. I think we both know that. But I'll tell you this, if you get caught now, the penalties are severe.
Yeah, so what kind of a term behind bars is this guy facing if he's convicted?
We don't know. I don't know the exact amount, but if he's convicted on all counts, he's going away for a while, a long while. So, and that's going to send, you would think it would send a scary message to the other officers and directors out there throughout the state that may be doing the same thing. But, there's still always going to be someone else right behind them. You can rest assured.
Yeah,
and that's what happens, when you're not being watched. If you're the president of a board and you're simply not being watched, the temptation to take is real. And if no one's going to watch you, you're probably going to take it in a lot of circumstances. And maybe you'll get caught and maybe you won't. For every president that gets caught, there's probably 10 that don't get caught.
No.
Yeah. I would certainly think so. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Well, and
Yes.
these board members aren't paid, so they probably think they deserve it.
Yeah, and that's true. And I'll tell you what, there's a thought process out there that maybe next year, believe it or not, the law is going to be changed to allow members to get paid. A total switch.
Well, that's interesting because now they are also liable, personally in some cases. So why not get paid? Because why would you go on a board when you could be sued?
I took a survey yesterday at where the class I was teaching and asked the 300 people in attendance, what do you think? Should board members get paid or not? And the overwhelming response to the question was absolutely not. The people in the community do not want board members getting paid. If you won't do it because you're doing something out of the goodness of your heart, then we don't want you there. Period. That was what everybody in the communities thought.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So,
and they didn't think for 1 second that by paying people, it was going to bring a better qualified person on the board. They didn't believe that for 1 second.
That's really interesting. So give us the dynamic. You are an attorney and board certified in community association law. So what's the dynamic? You have the management company, you have the board, and then you have the condo attorney. How do they all interact? Is it like the three branches of government here?
Yeah, it should be. There should be checks and balances all around. You said a really smart thing there. There should be. Everybody should be. The board should certainly be watching the management company. Management company should certainly be watching the board. I agree. But I think in this particular case, this person was a jack of all trades, apparently. He was the building manager, the building superintendent, the president of the board. Nobody was watching this person. And needless to say, if you're doing all of these jobs and getting paid, he probably should have been watched a lot closer.
And in the end, the people that live there, the unit owners, are in charge, right?
Of course, they're the ones that control who gets on the board. So I don't know how. I have no idea, but it seems as if this person might have been elected time and again, or, and I don't know this to be the case, maybe there weren't elections. I don't know. Sometimes that happens too.
He is from Russia. He had a Russian passport and a Georgia passport.
Really? Oh, I didn't even know.
He had 3 passports.
That's right. I did. Yeah. His passports were revoked. That's true. I did read about his passports being revoked. But this is what happens, you're right, when there is no checks and balances. And I tend to see this happen in communities that are 55 and over communities even more, where the people are just tired, and as long as the bills are getting paid, they're okay with with whatever's going on. And then you find out, they shouldn't have trusted the manager so much. But this community is in Aventura, and no, I don't believe for a second that it's like an elderly community.
No.
It wasn't.
Turnberry
So,
on the Green is very. I think even Michael Jackson was staying there at one point. I remember he went to
You're
the
kidding,
Aventura Mall.
yeah.
Now, yeah,
Yeah.
but it's
Beautiful
interesting.
building.
It is.
First class. Yeah, first class.
But it's interesting that these condo associations are almost a microcosm of our federal government,
Oh.
right?
I was funny because I was teaching all the new laws these past 2 days, and I was saying, well, you can't tamper with ballots. You can't encourage people how to vote a certain way. You can't pay off bribes. And as I'm teaching all these things, people were screaming, except in presidential elections. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
how can people get in touch with you if they would like to have get your advice or to hire you?
Thanks, Karen. I'm the owner of Glazer and Sachs, PA. I have offices in both Orlando and in Fort Lauderdale, 954-983-1112.
And you sound a little tired because we're doing this in the morning, and you just taught back-to-back 4-hour classes in
I'm losing my voice.
In West Palm Beach, and where's the other one, in Broward or in Orlando?
In Broward, Karen, we had 600 people show up for classes. It was unbelievable, really. Amazing. And it's great. That's also one of the new laws now. Education is mandatory. So hopefully it'll wake
members.
up.
Yeah, because before they just could sign an
board.
affidavit and they knew nothing about what they were doing, and they were managing millions of dollars.
That, Karen, as you said, one of the things I'm proud of is getting mandatory education passed. And hopefully this will wake up the non-thieves on the board to understand that what should be going on in your condominium. And education is mandatory for managers. So listen, you see something, say something. That's what you'd like to see go on in all these associations. And if you do now, I will tell you the police will take you seriously, and so will the DBPR. That's another change that we didn't talk about. Now, it used to be that you would complain to the DBPR, and everybody was saying the DBPR, which is the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, they weren't helping, they weren't doing anything. Well, now there's a brand new law that was passed that says if the DBPR even has reason to believe theft may be going on in a community, they must refer it to the local authorities. So, like I said, you see something, say something.
Well, thank you so much. We'll keep our eye on this case, and I certainly appreciate you and have really enjoyed being by your side for 15 years on condo and HOA law. It's been so much fun, and it's really getting interesting.
I've enjoyed it more.
Okay, thanks so much, Eric Glazer.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you. That wraps up this episode of Full Rigor. Please check me out on Instagram at Full Rigor Podcast. Thanks for subscribing and downloading, and thanks for listening. Until next time.